Chapter 1. The Girl Who Wanted Me Dead. My sister had been trying to kill me since we were little. When we were 5, Mara ground a drinking glass into glittering crumbs and tipped them into my milk. She sat across the kitchen table with her feet swinging above the floor, so quiet that Mom told her she was being good for once. I swallowed twice before my throat lit up. The glass hit the tile with a sharp crack. Milk spread in a white fan through the shards. I folded to the floor, choking and crying, while Mara leaned over the table to watch. When Dad came running, she clapped. Not because she hated me. She wanted to know what would happen. At 10, I woke after midnight and found her sitting on the edge of my bed with a paring knife across her knees. Moonlight flashed along the blade each time the curtain moved. "Mara?" She tilted her head. "If you died, how long would it hurt?" After that, my parents nearly separated us for good. Child psychiatrists used careful terms: conduct disorder, callous unemotional traits, severe deficits in empathy. Adults whispered less careful words when they thought we couldn't hear. Monster was one of them. I was the one who begged my parents not to send her away. I held Mara in the front hall while Dad loaded a suitcase into the car. She stood rigid in my arms, like a cat tolerating contact only because it hadn't decided whether scratching was worth the trouble. "Try to be better," I told her. "If you get better, I'll always stay with you." Mara said nothing. I assumed she forgot. Years later, I learned that some promises vanish from the mouth that makes them and live forever inside the person who hears them. The night I died, Mara was still the first person I thought of. I woke in an alley behind Greyhaven's old riverfront warehouses with cold passing through me. That was the first absurdity. I felt chilled to the bone after I no longer had bones to chill. 6 men stood around a girl near the brick wall. Rainwater shivered in potholes. Gravel grated beneath their shoes whenever one of them shifted. One man was swearing, another kicked the body. The man with the silver ring crouched and pressed 2 fingers to the girl's throat. "I told you not to go that far." "She breathing?" someone asked. "Hell if I know." It took me several seconds to recognize the ripped blue dress. I had put it on that evening. The girl's hair was stuck to blood along her cheek. One shoe was missing. There was an old thumb-shaped bruise on her left wrist, the one I had hidden beneath sleeves for weeks. I looked down at my own hand. Transparent. No pulse. No breath. No trick of closing my eyes and waking in my own bed. I was dead. The man with the ring jerked upright. "Get her out of here. Where's the camera?" Another man grabbed a small video camera from a crate. Tori said keep the footage. The first man wheeled on him. "You want all of us buried with her? Turn it off." Tori Hale. The name struck something loose in me. A hallway at Greyhaven High. Laughter behind my back. The restroom door held shut. A phone raised in my face. Then darkness. Then pieces I could not put in order. I lunged toward my body. Something yanked me backward. No hand touched me. The force came from the center of my chest. A line pulled tight between whatever I had become and the corpse on the pavement. I tried again. 3 steps. 4. On the 5th, the alley bent like heat over asphalt. I slammed back beside myself. dying had not freed me. It had chained me to my own death. Bag her. Burlap rasped over concrete. I knelt while they lifted my arm, rolled me, shoved my body into the sack. I screamed at them until I realized screaming was another useless habit the dead could keep. No one heard. Then, impossibly, I saw our living room. Not clearly, it flickered over the alley as if two reflections had been laid on the same pane of glass. Mara sat on the couch with the television on and the volume muted. She wasn't watching it. Her phone was pressed to her ear. My voicemail picked up. She called again. And again. 17 missed calls glowed on the screen. Mara didn't throw the phone. She didn't smash anything. She sat so still that the stillness felt worse than rage. On the 18th call, she opened another app. A red dot appeared on a map. I knew what it was. 6 months earlier, I had found a coin-sized GPS tracker stitched into the lining of my backpack. "You're tracking me?" Mara had been eating an apple. She didn't deny it. "So I know where you are." "That's called tracking." "That's what I said." I made her remove it, made her promise not to do it again. She said, "Fine." My mistake was embarrassingly simple. I assumed there was only one. The red dot on Mara's phone sat near the abandoned warehouses by the river. She pulled on a jacket and left. In the alley, the men had dragged my body toward a battered SUV. Somewhere beyond the buildings came the clatter of a loose metal gate, then approaching footsteps. Damn it, someone's coming. Leave it. What about her? No time. Doors slammed, the engine growled and receded through the industrial blocks. They left me in the sack against the wall. Minutes later, footsteps entered the alley. Slow, even, unhurried. Mara followed the tracker to a stretch of wet pavement where my rabbit keychain lay in a puddle. She picked it up, rolled it between 2 fingers, then looked down. A dark trail led deeper between the warehouses. She followed it. I stood beside the sack, and for the first time since realizing I was dead, wished she would turn around. For years, I had imagined what Mara would do if I died. Maybe she would be curious. Maybe she would study my body the way she had studied the milk on the kitchen floor, waiting to see what came next. I had never considered that I would be afraid of the answer. Mara stopped in front of the sack. The rabbit keychain was still in her hand. She did not call my name. She did not shake. She knelt, took hold of the drawstring, and pulled. Chapter 2. Becoming Me. Mara did not scream when she saw my body. She did not cry. Under the jaundiced alley light, her face went completely still. A stranger might have mistaken that stillness for indifference. I had made that mistake before. Mara touched my cheek. The instant her fingers met my skin, the invisible tether binding me to the corpse snapped tight. The world went black. When it returned, Mara was standing, and my body remained on the pavement. I stepped back. 1 pace. 5. 10. Nothing pulled me toward the corpse. Then Mara moved toward the mouth of the alley. I moved with her. The tether had changed anchors.
She paused, as if a draft had slipped beneath her collar, and glanced over one shoulder. "I'm here," I said. Her eyes passed through me. She crouched again, but this time she did not study my face. She checked my wrists, upper arms, neck, knees. Clinical, efficient, infuriating. "What are you doing, an autopsy?" Then she found an old bruise, not from tonight. Her fingers moved to my left wrist, where yellow had spread beneath the skin, then an older scratch near the elbow, a purple shadow below my ribs. I stopped talking. I had explained those marks a dozen ways. Stairs, a desk corner, gym class. Once, Mara stared at my wrist through an entire dinner. "Who did that?" "I fell." "You're lying." "Mara." She had gone silent. I won that argument only because I was the older sister by 7 minutes, and she still treated those 7 minutes like a form of legal authority. Now, her hand rested on the bruise I had hidden. She did not ask again. She knew. Mara wrapped her jacket around the worst of my face, pulled the sack closed, and lifted one end. "Call the police," I said. She didn't. "Mara, call them." She deleted the tracker location from the app, wiped the keychain with her sleeve, and took me home. By the time we reached the house, I understood the ugly logic. If the police found my body immediately, whoever had ordered the assault would know I had been recovered. They would destroy evidence, change stories, disappear. Mara wanted them to think I was still missing, at least until she knew which direction to look. I hated that it made sense. Behind our house stood a magnolia tree. Dad planted it the year we were born. He claimed 1 tree for 2 babies was efficient. Mom called him cheap. When Mara was 4, she wrapped both arms around the trunk and announced, "Claire's." "What about yours?" I asked. She considered the problem with great seriousness. "I share hers." That night, Mara dug beneath that tree. The soil was rain-soaked and heavy. Each time the shovel struck a root, it stopped with a dull thunk. At some point, her palm split. I noticed only when a dark streak of blood appeared on the wooden handle. "Stop!" She kept digging. I sat beside her and discovered that death could become real more than once. It was not only the body in the sack, not only the blood. It was the hole deepening beneath the tree our parents had planted for us. This was where I would disappear. Mara lowered me into the earth with maddening care. She filled the hole, tamped the soil flat, and stood under the magnolia until the sky began to pale. Finally, she said, "Idiot." One word. I turned away. Of course, I died, and my sister had one thing to say. Idiot. Mara went upstairs, showered away the mud, and entered my bedroom. She opened my closet. "What are you doing?" She pulled out my school clothes. We were identical twins, but no one at Greyhaven High knew that in any useful way. By senior year, we were both 18. Mara had not attended a regular school since middle school. After our parents died, she finished classes online, avoided neighbors, and treated strangers as an inconvenience. I learned early that saying I was an only child invited fewer questions than explaining my sister. That lie was about to become useful to her. Mara tied her hair the way I did. She chose one of my sweaters, my jeans, my shoes. Then she sat at my mirror and practiced smiling. The first one was too wide. The second never reached her eyes. By the 15th or 20th attempt, I wanted to cover the mirror. Near dawn, the person in the glass looked enough like me that even I had to check twice. Mara stopped smiling. Her reflection did not. It held the expression for half a heartbeat longer. Mara froze. So did I. In the mirror, the smile slowly faded. She touched the glass. Nothing happened. After several seconds, she turned away, apparently deciding that an unexplained phenomenon did not deserve priority over a plan. My Greyhaven High student ID sat on the desk. Mara picked it up. "Claire Mercer," she said in my voice. Too low the first time. Almost perfect the second. She tucked the card into my wallet. Before leaving, she looked at the photograph beside my bed. In it, I had one arm around her shoulders, while Mara stared into the camera as if family pictures were an administrative burden. She set the frame upright, then turned it face down. That morning, my sister walked out of our house wearing my clothes, my face, and my name. I followed because I had no choice. I did not know yet whether Mara intended to find the people who killed me, or kill them. Worse, I began to wonder something else. If she wore Claire Mercer long enough, would she ever want Mara Mercer back?
Chapter 3. The Girl Who Should Have Been Dead. The first person at Greyhaven High to realize something was wrong was Tori Hale. Not a teacher, not anyone who had shared classes with me for 2 years, the girl who had paid to make me disappear. Tori was sitting on top of my desk when Mara entered the room, one sneaker planted on the chair. 3 girls hovered nearby. Conversation thinned as my face appeared in the doorway. A girl near the windows waved. "Claire, you okay? You were out yesterday." "Yeah," Mara said. One syllable. Close enough. Tori said nothing at first. Her smile simply switched off. Mara noticed. So did I. If Tori had only been a bully, my return should have annoyed her. Instead, she looked at Mara the way you look at a mistake in reality. Mara stopped beside the desk. "That's my seat." Tori looked her over. "You still came to school?" Mara did not ask the question she wanted. She lowered her eyes, tightened the grip on the backpack strap, folded her shoulders inward. I recognized the posture. Me. Not me at home, me around Tori, the version of myself that had learned how to occupy as little room as possible. Watching Mara imitate my fear made me want to slap her straight. Tori bought it. "What?" She slid off the desk. "Last night wear you out so bad you forgot how to talk?" Mara stayed quiet. Tori stepped closer. "I heard you cried." One of the girls laughed, then stopped when Tori glanced at her. "Those guys really don't know when to quit," Tori said. "This morning you weren't here, so I figured." Mara looked up. "You figured what?" Tori stopped. That was all Mara needed to do. No accusation, no alley, no names. Tori walked the rest of the distance herself. Nothing. She shoved Mara's shoulder. Mara gave half a step, her hand closed at her side, then opened. I knew that movement too. Restraint. Tori tipped her head. "What, you forget those guys too?" Behind Mara was the glass trophy case. Tori silenced. Her gaze slid past Mara and locked on the reflection. I turned. Mara stood in the glass. Behind her stood another girl. Me. Not as I was in the classroom, as I had been in the alley, blood in my hair, collar torn, head resting at an angle a living neck could not hold. Tori stumbled backward and struck the desk. "No!" "What's wrong?" one of her friends asked. Tori kept staring at the case. Mara turned. Only her own reflection looked back. "Something there?" she asked. Tori swallowed. "If those guys couldn't deal with you, then—" She caught herself too late. "The video still exists. You start talking and—"
Mara blinked once. What video? Tori looked at her. I could almost hear the curse in her head. Forget it. She walked away. Mara let her. She had what she needed. Those guys, last night, video. Not a confession. Enough. The school day continued. That became one of the cruelest things about being dead. The bells still rang. Teachers passed out quizzes. Someone complained about cafeteria pizza. My desk remained in the same row while my body lay beneath a magnolia tree 40 minutes away. Last period, Mr. Warren entered the room. He taught senior English and advised student council. He set a stack of papers on his desk, scanned the class, and let his eyes rest on Mara too long. Nausea rolled through me. Not a memory, not exactly. Cold coffee, a locked door, pain around my wrist. I looked down at my hand. Mara did too. Her thumb rubbed the same place my corpse wore the old bruise. Warren adjusted his glasses. Claire, stay after class. I wanted to tell her not to. I did not yet know why I was so afraid. After the final bell, Mara stayed. The hall emptied. As she approached Warren's classroom, the fragments inside me thickened. Fluorescent light. A hand smoothing my hair. My own voice, small. Please don't. I had not forgotten. I had only refused to give what happened a name. Mara entered. Warren crossed behind her and locked the classroom door. Click. The sound went through me. He smiled. One day out and suddenly you think rules don't apply to you? Mara said nothing. Warren came close and brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. Or last time not teach you enough? Mara's smile disappeared. Not my smile. Me. For one instant, I vanished completely from her face. Last time? Warren grabbed her wrist. The exact place. Memory tore through me like current. Don't play dumb with me, Claire. I remembered his sweat, the lock, going home afterwards and telling Mara I had fallen down the stairs. I had hidden one thing from my sister more fiercely than anything else. Too late. She knew.
Chapter 4. Good people don't do that. Don't play dumb with me, Claire. Warren tightened his grip on Mara's wrist. The way his thumb pressed into the soft skin beneath her pulse told me why I had worn long sleeves through September. Mara looked down at his hand. Then she asked, "How many times did you do this to my sister?" Warren stopped. Wrong pronoun. Tiny mistake. The kind of guilt a man hears immediately. Your what? Mara did not answer. Her other hand was still inside my sweater, thumb resting on her phone. The recording had been running since the lock clicked. I nearly laughed. She had not walked in unarmed. Warren took her silence for fear. He pulled her closer, voice dropping into the patient tone adults use when they want cruelty to sound instructional. Don't start performing now. You didn't tell anybody before, did you? Something buzzed in my skull. Enough. Mara moved. Warren only saw her shoulder turn. The wrist holding her was rotated back. His body followed the pain before his mind understood it. Mara stepped into the motion and drove him chest first across the edge of his desk. The chair crashed over. You little... She raised his arm another inch. The insult became a hiss. Mara was not superhuman. She did not need to be. She simply had no hesitation where most people hesitated. Which joints hurt? Which direction made balance disappear? How much pressure stopped resistance without needing strength? Dad had taught both of us basic self-defense when we were kids. Mara remembered lessons the way other people remembered birthdays. How happened last time? She asked. Let go of me. No. I'll have you expelled. Mara tilted her head. You think that scares me? Her eyes moved to the scissors beside a stack of essays. I knew that look. Mara. She released Warren's arm. He started to rise. Mara grabbed his hair, slammed his cheek against the desk, and picked up the scissors. The room seemed to contract around the steel. Mara! I stepped in front of her, useless. Don't! She could not see me. The tip stopped inches from Warren's throat. He began to shake. Claire, listen to me. We can talk. Mara stared at him. I saw our old front hall again. Dad carrying a suitcase, Mom crying, 10-year-old Mara standing by the door, genuinely confused about why everyone had turned one knife into the end of the world. I had held her. Get better and I'll always stay. I had said it like adults say things to frighten children, to calm the moment, to buy time, to pretend tomorrow would make us wiser. Mara heard a condition. The scissors lowered. She dropped them on the desk with a light metallic tap. I had never watched my sister win a fight that hurt me so much. Warren exhaled. Mara took out the phone and stopped the recording. Thanks. His face drained. Give me that. No. No one's going to believe you. Mara looked at him. Then why are you scared? He said nothing. She picked up his phone from the desk. Passcode. Get out. Mara glanced at the scissors. Warren did too. He gave her the code. I wanted to hate the way she forced people. Then the screen opened. There were messages with students, not only me. Requests to stay after. Deleted threads that had not fully disappeared from cloud previews. A warning from another teacher telling Warren to be careful because a parent complained. In his school email, Mara found student reports, health office notes, discipline records. My name appeared more often than I expected. A teacher had noted I frequently fell asleep in class and came in with bruises. The nurse had documented a wrist injury. A parent had reported seeing Tori Hale corner me after school. Every trail ended in clean language. Peer conflict. Insufficient evidence. Resolved internally. I had believed I hid everything so well that no one knew. People knew. They simply chose to not know more. Mara found another set of emails. Complaints involving Tori often overlapped with conversations about donors, the Hale Scholarship Fund, and maintaining productive relationships with key families. Daniel Hale's name appeared in financial records, not as someone ordering anyone to bury complaints. Mara did not assign guilt she could not prove. She photographed everything. One copy to a private cloud account, one to an encrypted email address. Then she put Warren's phone back where it had been. What do you want? I don't know yet. Money? Mara studied him as if the question had revealed something useful. Come to work tomorrow. What? If you disappear tonight, everyone connected to you knows you're scared. She unlocked the classroom door. We left. At a coffee shop 2 blocks away, Mara split the files into separate packets. The audio went to the district Title IX office and Greyhaven Police's online tip portal. Documents involving other students went to the district superintendent and state teacher licensing board. The material showing donor pressure and school administrators she kept back. Not because she was protecting anyone. She was tossing a stone into still water and waiting to see who rushed in to stop the ripples. By afternoon, Warren had been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. His classroom was locked. District officials were interviewing staff. No arrest happened instantly. Justice did not become magic because someone uploaded a file. But for the first time, the things hidden beneath words like internal and resolved had reached too many inboxes to disappear with one phone call. Mara's phone vibrated. Unknown number. What did you do? A second message arrived. Claire Mercer, what the hell did you do? Mara let the screen glow until the caller tried. She rejected the first call, the second, the third. She answered the fourth. Tori skipped hello. Warren called me. Mara turned an untouched paper cup between her palms. Did he? What did you tell the school? About what? A short silence. Tori's voice dropped. Don't think because somebody listened to you once, you won. Mara said nothing. There are things you should leave alone. Such as? This time Tori caught herself. Come to school tomorrow. The call ended. Mara reopened the donor records. Her finger stopped on one name. Daniel Hale. She tapped the screen once. Another thread had surfaced.
Chapter 5. The Father Who Lost a Daughter. Tori did not confront Mara the next morning. That silence worried me more than all the times she had blocked my path. News of Warren's leave had spread through Greyhaven High. Conversations broke apart when teachers approached. Students filmed everything. The district had sent a message to parents saying it was reviewing serious allegations regarding professional conduct. Tori sat in the back of class with her phone in her hand. She opened a conversation and deleted it. Opened another. Deleted that too. Two girls near her followed after receiving a glance. Mara watched. She did not interfere. The important things were already backed up. The harder Tori tried to clean, the clearer it became that she understood how close she stood to something larger than school discipline. At lunch, Tori came to our table herself. Warren got put on leave. Mara looked up from a book. I heard. You happy? No. Tori planted one hand on the table. What do you have? What are you asking about? Stop acting stupid. If you ask a vague question, you get a vague answer. Tori's jaw tightened. Before, she might have slapped me for less. Now there were 20 phones within recording distance, an active investigation, and an entire student body newly aware that videos sometimes became evidence instead of entertainment. Tori still had power. It simply was not invisible anymore. This isn't over, she said. Which part? Tori stared at her, then walked away. For the first time, she had no idea how much the person in front of her knew. And for the first time, I saw how much Tori hated guessing. That afternoon, Mara went to the public library and searched Daniel Hale. I knew him only as Tori's father and the founder of Hale Development, one of the biggest donors to Greyhaven High. Mara found business filings, interviews, philanthropy profiles, local news archives. One article stopped her. 11 years after Willow Street fire, developer funds new burn unit. The story referenced the original fire. Daniel's first wife, Rebecca Hale, and their 7-year-old daughter, Anna, had died when the family home burned overnight. There was an old photograph. Daniel looked younger, standing beside Rebecca. Anna was in the middle. Mara zoomed in. I leaned closer. Anna did not look exactly like us, but there were enough familiar lines for grief to do the rest. The shape of the eyes, a narrow chin, the angle of the brows. She would have been 18 now. Our age. Mara opened the front camera and compared her own face to the photograph. Don't, I said. I knew that look. She had found a variable she could use. The articles said Daniel withdrew from public life for nearly 2 years after the fire. He funded burn care, grief programs, churches, and memorial charities. Later, he returned to business and married Meredith Vale, who had a daughter, Victoria, from an earlier relationship. Daniel eventually adopted Tori. No secret, no scandal. He was simply the only man she ever called Dad.
Mara found no evidence that Daniel personally pressured the school to bury complaints, so she did not pretend there was any. Instead, she asked another question. How do you make a busy man remember a stranger without letting him know the meeting was arranged? 2 mornings later, she gave me the answer. She had spent the previous day observing the route between Daniel's office and one of his regular construction sites. At 8:15, she stood near a crosswalk along that corridor and checked the time 3 times. "Tori, you're not—" A black SUV appeared at the far end of the block. I understood. The plan only required hard braking, a frightened apology, a face close enough to Anna's to remain in Daniel's memory. Cars, unfortunately, do not move according to probability charts. The SUV was faster than Mara expected. Brakes screamed. Mara turned. The front corner clipped her hard enough to throw her onto the pavement. Pain detonated through my shoulder and knee. I folded even though I had no body to fold. This was not memory. Mara's pain had crossed the tether between us. She opened her eyes. Blood threaded from a small cut at her hairline. She stared at the SUV stopped a few feet away. For one beat, her face was empty. Not performance. She had miscalculated. The rear door flew open before the driver reached her. A middle-aged man dropped to one knee. "Call 911, he snapped over his shoulder. Then to Mara. "Can you hear me?" She tried to sit up. "Don't." He steadied her shoulder. "Stay still." I recognized him without the library photograph. Daniel Hale. "What's your name?" Mara opened her mouth. Mara. She stopped. For half a second, I thought her real name had escaped first. "Claire. Claire Mercer." Daniel froze when he finally looked at her properly. Not because of the name. His eyes stayed on her face 1 second too long before he looked away, embarrassed by his own staring. At the hospital, the injuries were minor: bruised shoulder, scraped knee, shallow cut at the hairline. Daniel waited outside urgent care when he easily could have left everything to his driver. When Mara came out, he stood immediately. "What did they say?" "I'm fine." "Dizzy?" "No." "Nauseated?" She shook her head. Mara answered ordinary people the way she answered intake forms. I began to worry that her strangeness would ruin the whole plan. Daniel only exhaled. "Thank God." Mara looked at him. I stepped out without looking. "My car hit you. My part is still my part." Simple words, not the way powerful people usually spoke when searching for an exit from responsibility. Mara noticed. Something in her expression changed by a degree. "Can I call your parents?" "They're dead." He went quiet. "I'm sorry." "It's fine." For once, the silence between them held no obvious strategy. Daniel looked at her again. Mara caught him. "Is there something on my face?" "No, sorry." He rubbed a hand over his mouth. "You just look like someone I used to know." Mara already knew the answer. She did not weaponize it. "Family?" Daniel nodded. "My daughter, Anna." The way he said the name made me stop thinking about newspaper clippings. Some losses did not require explanation. They lived in the pause before a name. "She died when she was 7. She'd be about your age now." Mara offered no polished comfort. That turned out to be better. Before leaving, Daniel handed her a business card. "If you feel worse tonight or need to come back, call me." "Thank you." He walked several steps, then turned. "Claire." Mara looked up. "Next time you cross a street, try something less dramatic." For a heartbeat, I thought he had seen through her. Then he pointed at the bandage on her forehead and smiled tiredly. Mara nodded. After he left, she rolled the card between her fingers. Daniel Hale had begun as a route to Tori. Now Mara had discovered there was a human being standing in the middle of that route. Human beings were the variables she calculated worst.
Chapter 6. The Imposter. Tori began to suspect Mara on the third day of my return, not because of the face. The face was easy. A person was made from thousands of things outsiders rarely noticed: how you answered when cornered, which stories embarrassed you, what you remembered, which name you used for a place only 2 people knew. Tori arrived late that morning. Her makeup was careful, but her eyes were swollen from lack of sleep. For 2 days, district investigators and police had been interviewing students about Warren and the older complaints. She did not start a fight. At break, she dragged a chair to Mara's desk and sat backward on it. "Claire?" Mara looked up. "My dad asked about you." The pen stopped for a fraction of a second. "Did he?" "He asked what grade you're in, who you live with. Heard he took you to urgent care." "It was an accident." "Sure." Tori smiled. "You've had a lot of accidents lately." Mara said nothing. Tori's eyes moved to the bandage near her hairline. "Those guys couldn't finish the job and then you happened to get hit by my dad's car?" The words had teeth, but hurting Mara was no longer the real purpose. Tori was measuring her. After a moment, she changed tone, almost casual. "Remember the equipment room?" I paid attention. "Which time?" 3 months ago." Tori rested her chin on one hand. "I pulled you in there. You kept grabbing that necklace your mom left you, so I ripped it off and stepped on it." Cold washed through me. That never happened. Mom had left me a necklace. It was in a drawer at home. Tori had never seen it. "Don't answer," I said. Mara looked at her, then said, "I remember." The trap closed without making a sound. Tori did not grin. She did not celebrate. Only one finger tapping the back of the chair stopped. "Do you?" "Yeah." "You cried for an hour." Mara looked down at her book. "I don't want to talk about it." Safe answer. Too late. Tori stood. Before leaving, she bent close enough that her hair brushed Mara's shoulder. "You really have changed." Her voice was almost kind. "So much I'm starting to not recognize you." Mara looked up. Behind her was the classroom door, half glass. Tori glanced into it. Her face changed. In the reflection, Mara sat at the desk. I stood directly behind her. This time, I did not look dead. I wore a clean school sweater, hair tied back, exactly as I had on 100 ordinary mornings. Our faces nearly overlapped in the glass, similar enough to confuse the eye and separate enough to be 2 people. Tori backed away. Mara turned. The glass reflected only her. "What?" Mara asked. "Nothing." Tori left. I stayed with the empty reflection longer than I should have. Each day, Mara lived as Claire Mercer. The border between us grew thinner. The frightening thing was not knowing which direction it was thinning. That afternoon, Tori kept her distance. Mara did not approach her either. But while packing her bag after the final bell, she paused and looked toward the back of the room. She knew she had exposed something. She did not know how much. Tori left first. The tether let me drift a limited distance from Mara. The farther I pushed, the colder the invisible line inside me became. I made it to the far end of the hallway. Tori stood beside a window, phone to her ear. "It's me." Pause. "No, you screwed it up last time."
I forced myself another step. The tether tightened. She's still alive. The voice on the other end said something I could not hear. Tori looked back toward the classroom. Don't hurt her yet. I stopped. This was no longer the girl who only struck when angry. Grab her. Another pause. Find out who she is. I looked toward Mara. She was zipping my backpack, unaware that a conversation 40 yards away had changed the objective from punishment to investigation. Tori lowered her voice. And find out if Claire Mercer has a sister. Cold tracked down my spine. For the first time, Mara's opponent knew something Mara did not know she knew. Tori ended the call and went downstairs. When Mara reached the front entrance, she paused. A black sedan sat across the street beneath dripping maples, dark windows, engine off. Mara watched it, then kept walking. I did not. A hand rested near the driver's side window. A silver ring caught the gray light. I had seen it in the alley where I died. The men hunting Mara had arrived, and this time she did not yet know what they were hunting for.
Chapter 7. The Old Alley. Mara knew she was being followed before I found any way to warn her. The black sedan did not stay close. It kept a block between them, disappeared at intersections, then resurfaced ahead. Mara changed buses twice and walked through a crowded grocery store before doubling back through a pharmacy. The car remained. She stopped inside a convenience store and faced the refrigerated case. In the glass, 2 men stood outside. One wore a baseball cap. The other wore the silver ring. I did not need his face. That's him. Mara studied the reflection 1 beat longer. Maybe she did not recognize the ring from the alley. Maybe she simply understood that 2 adult men who changed buses with her were not commuters. She sent her location to a second account and headed toward the old riverfront. I felt cold before we reached it. Don't go back there. The alley where I died ran behind a row of empty warehouses the city had been promising to redevelop for years. Mara had walked it once while searching for my body. She knew the 2 exits, a low retaining wall, a side passage narrow enough that only 2 people could move abreast. If you wanted to turn followers into prey, it was useful terrain. If there were only 2 of them. Mara cut behind one warehouse and tucked a length of rusted pipe into a gap between concrete blocks where she could reach it later. Then she continued. Footsteps entered behind us. 2 men. For 1 second I thought she had been right. Then a vehicle door slammed at the far end of the alley. A gray cargo van rolled into view and blocked the exit. 3 men stepped out. A 6th emerged from a recessed loading dock. Mara stopped. Not for long. Long enough. She had miscounted. Silverring smiled. Going somewhere? Mara checked both ends of the alley. Tori Hale send you? No one answered. Baseball Cap pulled a stun baton from his jacket. We just want to talk. Mara glanced at the weapon. New conversation style? Grab her. 2 men rushed. Mara ran. She did not turn to prove she was dangerous. She sprinted into the narrow passage she had chosen in advance. The first man followed too closely. At the corner, Mara planted 1 foot and kicked behind his knee. He buckled into the man behind him. She yanked the pipe from the wall gap. The baton swept in from her left. She was half a second late. Crack. Electric current snapped through her shoulder. Pain streaked down the tether and tore through my non-existent fingers. Mara dropped to 1 knee. A fist knotted in her hair and hauled her backward. She swung the pipe into the man's wrist. The baton clattered away, but another punch landed before she could stand. Her back struck brick. Blood brightened the corner of her mouth. I had never seen Mara trapped like this. She liked preparation, angles, predictable people, situations where she knew who would hesitate first. None of those advantages were enough now. Silverring walked toward her. Different from last time, huh? Mara raised her head. He hooked a shoe beneath her chin. Last time, all you did was cry. Memory opened inside me, like torn skin. That voice, I had heard it while lying on the pavement. "We were told not to kill you this time," he said. "Someone wants to know what you are." Mara stared at the ring. "Last time?" He laughed. "You really lose your mind?" Baseball cap snapped. "Quit talking. Tie her up." Silverring bent down, then looked over Mara's shoulder. The smile vanished. I followed his gaze. A broken pane remained in one of the warehouse doors. Mara was reflected in it, kneeling. Behind her stood the version of me from the night I died. Blood-cacked hair, torn collar, neck tilted, eyes open. Silverring staggered back. "No." "What?" another man demanded. He pointed at the glass but could not form the sentence. I stepped forward. The reflection stepped too. Mara could not see me. She could see his fear. That was enough. She swept his legs out from under him, snatched the dropped stun baton, cracked it across the nearest wrist, and ran into the warehouse. 3 men followed. Inside, rusted shelving broke the floor into aisles. Rain ticked through holes in the roof. Mara shoved one shelf sideways with both hands. Metal shrieked against concrete and crashed across the passage behind her. 2 men were cut off. Mara ran up a narrow steel staircase, changed direction at the mezzanine, and dropped onto a loading platform below. One pursuer overshot the turn. Mara struck the back of his knee and kept going. It was not elegant. It was not heroic. Run, dodge, hit just hard enough to buy seconds, keep moving. When she burst through a side door, her left arm barely lifted. Her breathing came ragged and shallow. Blood ran from her mouth onto my sweater. Only 1 man followed. The youngest. Mara slowed, dragged 1 foot, let herself look exhausted. He saw weakness and accelerated. The moment he entered a service corridor between 2 concrete walls, numbers stopped mattering. Mara turned. The pipe struck his wrist. A knife dropped. Second strike behind the knee. He went down. Mara picked up the knife and held it near his throat. "Phone. Wait. Phone." He handed it over. "Call them. Say you lost me. Tell them to split up." He stared at her, confused that someone bleeding that much could speak as if ordering takeout. He called. Within minutes, voices spread through the warehouse complex. Mara shoved him into a small maintenance room, looped a length of cable through the outer handle, then circled around through another entrance. We had minutes. Mara leaned against the wall. For the first time, she let her head drop while she breathed through her mouth. "Call the police," I said. Mara wiped the blood from her lip and crouched in front of the man. "How much did Tori pay?" He looked away. Mara held up his phone. "I don't need you to confess. I need the thing that connects her to you." His expression changed. "Texts, transfers, calls, pick one." "You think I talk and I live?" Mara paused. "You're scared of Tori?" The answer was in his shifting gaze. "No." Mara lowered the phone slightly. "You're scared of whoever came before her." This time he failed to hide it. "Where did Tori get your number?" Silence. Outside, footsteps passed, receded, then returned. Mara set his phone on the concrete. "I give the whole thing to the police. They check every contact, every payment.
If there's someone on there you don't want named, now is your chance. Wait. Mara waited. Tori didn't find us herself. Keep going. She got the number off her mom's old phone. Meredith Hale? He nodded. The name landed differently than Tori's had. Did Meredith know what happened to my sister? I don't know. Never met her for this job. For this job, he swore under his breath. Mara leaned closer. You worked for her before? Not directly. There was a guy, Caleb Rourke, security, collections, private stuff. We did some jobs through people who worked for him. What kind of jobs? Following people, scaring debtors, things nobody puts on invoices. Where's Rourke now? Haven't seen him in years. How many? 10, maybe more? Footsteps neared again. Mara pocketed the phone. Her plan had died the moment the gray van appeared. She had not trapped the group, had not left untouched, had not controlled the ambush. But when Mara's plans died, she didn't mourn them, she picked through the wreckage for whatever still worked. This time, what remained was a name, Caleb Rourke, and behind it, Meredith Hale.
Chapter 8. The Willow Street Fire. Tori did not come to school the next morning. The official message said she was temporarily absent while cooperating with an investigation. By lunch, 2 plainclothes officers had visited the principal's office, and no one called it a disciplinary matter anymore. Mara sat through classes as if nothing had happened. Her left shoulder was stiff, the cut at her lip had scabbed, bruises bloomed beneath clothes no one else could see. The phone from the man in the warehouse was no longer with her. Before sunrise, Mara copied call logs, payment apps, saved contacts, and fragments of deleted messages. Then she left it in a public place and sent its location anonymously to Grey Haven Police. She still did not go into a station and give a statement. I hated that. But for the first time, other people were being pulled into the story. 2 of Tori's friends were called out of class before lunch. Another left with her parents at the end of the day. Things once flattened into rumors began acquiring dates, screenshots, case numbers, interview notes. I expected relief. Instead, I found an older question waiting. What if I had talked sooner? The dead keep useless habits. I still had the sensation of biting the inside of my cheek to keep from crying. That afternoon, Mara returned to the library. She searched Meredith Hale. There was surprisingly little. Foundation galas, charity boards, photographs beside Daniel, profiles that described her as private, tasteful, civic-minded. Mara stopped searching for the woman. She searched the network around her. A number in the stolen phone's old call history led to a dissolved company called Rourke Recovery and Security. Debt collection, event security, private investigations. The company had operated for 3 years. Its registered office had been less than 2 miles from the Hale family's former home on Willow Street. Mara reopened the article about the fire. Rourke's company had been founded the year before, dissolved 18 months after. Coincidence was not proof. Mara kept going. In a local archive, she found a short follow-up story most people would have forgotten. A neighborhood security guard reported seeing an unfamiliar sedan near the Hale property shortly before the fire. Police never identified the driver. Mara searched Rourke's name with vehicle records, addresses, business partners. Nothing direct. An old message board contained complaints about aggressive collection tactics, surveillance, and threats connected to Rourke's company. Still not proof, but the hypothesis no longer floated free of evidence. Tori got the contact from Meredith. Meredith's network had once run through Caleb Rourke. Rourke had operated near Willow Street during the period of the fire. Each fact alone was weak. Mara did not strengthen them with imagination. She placed them next to each other. On the screen was a photograph of Meredith beside Daniel at a hospital fundraiser. She stood half a step away from him, smiling without leaning toward the camera. Tori resembled her mother in a way I had never noticed. Not the eyes, not the mouth. The belief that if something ugly was handled quietly enough, eventually everyone would agree it had never happened. Mara did not send Daniel everything. She chose 3 pieces: the article about the unidentified car, Rourke's old business file, and a call history fragment tying the current men to his network. Her message was short. Mr. Hale, if you want to know whether the Willow Street fire was really an accident, look into Rourke. Do not ask Meredith until you know more. Mara read it twice, then sent it. I thought it was the right move. Daniel had money, lawyers, contacts, and access to old records Mara could never obtain. If he stayed calm, he could investigate without alerting Meredith. Mara thought so too. We were both wrong. Daniel did not reply for hours. Then, "Where did you get Rourke's name?" Mara did not answer. He called. Once, twice, she let both go. Near 10 that night, the phone vibrated again. Unknown number. "What are you investigating?" A second message followed. "Stay out of adult business." The third arrived several minutes later. "Claire Mercer, stop looking for things that have nothing to do with you." Mara read all 3 and set the phone down. No explanation needed. Daniel had confronted his wife. The next morning he called at 6:13. Mara answered. "Mr. Hale." His voice sounded scraped raw by a sleepless night. "Where did you get Rourke's name?" "You asked Meredith." He did not respond. Mara closed her eyes for 1 second. "I told you not to." "That was my wife and my daughter." His voice rose. "You send me a name that might be connected to the night they died and expect me to sit quietly with it?" Mara said nothing. She understood information. Daniel had just reminded her that information could also be the name of a 7-year-old girl who never came home. "What did Meredith say?" Mara asked. "That you're trying to ruin my family, that meeting me wasn't an accident." Mara's fingers tightened around the phone. "Do you believe her?" The silence lasted too long. "I don't know." Mara ended the call. No outburst, no thrown phone. She simply watched the screen go dark. She had given the right clue to the right person with the ability to investigate it. Her mistake was assuming a father could treat his dead daughter like a puzzle requiring patience. That evening, a car stopped across from our house. Meredith Hale stepped out. In person, she was smaller than she looked in photographs. Pale coat, hair pinned neatly. Nothing about her suggested men like Caleb Rourke or the warehouse crew. She did not come to the door. She looked at the house, the second-floor windows, then the magnolia behind the side fence. Mara stood in the dark living room and watched her through the glass. They did not know each other well enough for hatred. They knew enough to understand that the other might possess something capable of destroying a life. Mara's phone vibrated. "I think we should talk." Across the street, Meredith slipped her phone into her pocket and studied the house for several seconds more. "Tori wanted to frighten me. Warren assumed I would stay quiet. The men in the alley worked for money. Meredith was different. She had come to identify the threat before deciding what to do with it."
Chapter 9. A Peace Offering. 3 days later, Meredith sent Mara for address. The message did not mention Caleb Rourke or the Willow Street fire. "Come for dinner tonight. This situation with you and Tori has gone far enough. We should sit down and clear the air." I read it twice and decided I disliked the word dinner most. "Don't go." Mara typed, "Of course, thank you." Of course. The Hale house stood in a quiet neighborhood above the river, large without being theatrical,
hidden behind tall hedges and a black metal gate. Mara arrived exactly on time, wearing one of my light-colored dresses, hair tied low. Before she got out of the rideshare, her reflection in the window startled me. For one instant, I was not sure which of us I was looking at. She had worn me too long. Meredith opened the front door herself. "Claire?" "Yes, ma'am." "Come in, it's freezing out." Her voice was warm without being sugary. Under different circumstances, I might have liked her. Mara stepped inside. The lock clicked behind us. She glanced back. Meredith caught it. "Habit," she said. "Mine too." The first exchange between them was polite enough that no one reasonably called it a threat. "Is Mr. Hale home?" "Work. He may be late." "Okay." Tori was in the living room. She looked thinner than she had at school. No careful makeup, no crowd orbiting her. But the moment she saw Mara, her body went rigid. She knew the girl in front of her was not me. Meredith did not necessarily know. "Tori," Meredith said, "we have a guest." Tori did not stand. "You're calling her a guest?" Meredith looked at her daughter. Only looked. Tori got up. "Hi." Mara answered in my voice. "Hi." Tori's mouth twitched. Meredith rested one hand between her daughter's shoulder blades. "Since Claire came over, apologize." Tori turned. "Mom? You heard me. You know she—" Tori stopped. Meredith's smile remained. "I know what?" "Nothing." "Interesting." Tori had not told her everything. Tori approached Mara. "I'm sorry." "For what?" Tori's face flushed. "You—" Meredith set down a water glass with a soft clink. Tori changed direction. "Don't be ridiculous. I just want to know which apology I'm accepting." The room went still. Tori could not choose one offense without acknowledging another. Meredith stepped in exactly when she needed to. Teenagers can spend all night relitigating each other. Tori knows she crossed lines. That's enough for tonight. One sentence, a clean cloth laid over something filthy. Mara nodded. "I understand." Neither side pressed further. The first round had ended without a clear winner. Dinner began with ordinary questions. How were classes? Was our house far from school? Who handled things after our parents died? Meredith never rushed. She served food, commented on the rain, left comfortable spaces between questions. That made it difficult to point at any single one and call it an interrogation. "You live alone?" "Yes." "No relatives nearby?" "No." "Any brothers or sisters?" Tori looked up. So did I. Mara kept her eyes on her plate. "No." "Necessary. It still hurt." Meredith nodded, as if asking only out of politeness. "That must be difficult." "I'm used to it." She did not pursue the subject. Tori looked at her mother again. The fracture between them widened by a hair. Tori had not told Meredith she had used a fake memory to prove Claire was an impostor. Meredith changed topics. "Daniel seems fond of you." Mara's fork paused, then continued. "He feels responsible for the accident." "My husband doesn't become invested in strangers easily." Meredith took a sip of water. "Especially strangers who remind him of the past." "I didn't mean to remind him of anyone." Meredith looked at her. "I didn't say you meant to." Very light. A paper cut. Mara denied an accusation Meredith had not made. Their eyes met. Dinner continued. After that, Mara spoke less. When the main course was cleared, Meredith went to the kitchen. Tori leaned across the table immediately. "What do you want?" Mara looked at her. "Dinner." "Stop performing." "I'm actually eating." Your teeth clenched. "You're not her." The first time she had said it plainly. Mara did not deny it. "Not who?"
Claire Mercer. Then why haven't you told your mother? Tori froze. Mara did not need the answer. Footsteps returned from the kitchen. Meredith carried a tray with 3 bowls of chicken soup. She placed one in front of Tori, one at her own seat, and the last before Mara. Made it this afternoon. Tori stared at Mara's bowl. Her face changed by barely anything. Mom. Meredith looked at her. What? Tori opened her mouth, closed it. Steam curled above the soup. Meredith had not mentioned Rourke once. She had not asked what Mara knew about the fire. She had not told her to stop digging. Maybe she never planned to persuade her. Meredith nudged the bowl closer. Eat while it's hot. Mara reached for the spoon. I stood beside her. Don't. Tori was no longer watching her mother. She was watching Mara. And for the first time that evening, I realized the one person at the table who did not fully understand what dinner had been prepared for was Meredith Hale's own daughter.
Chapter 10. The Dead Don't Lie. Mara lifted the spoon. Meredith smiled. Tori watched Mara's hand. Those 2 reactions told me more than the soup ever could. Mara stirred once. Ginger and chicken covered most of the smell, but when she brought the spoon close to her mouth, she paused for less than a second. Not hungry? Meredith asked. I'm fine. Then eat before it cools. Mara raised the bowl. Don't. I was almost against her shoulder. She drank. Her throat moved once. Again. Tori went pale. Meredith's shoulders loosened. Mara set the bowl down. A thin layer of broth remained at the bottom. It's good. I'll make it again sometime. Thank you. Mara wiped her mouth with a napkin. That was when I saw the inside of her sleeve, dark, soaked. Before coming, she had sewn an absorbent layer into the cuff of my dress. Hidden behind the bowl, most of the soup had gone down her sleeve instead of her throat. She had swallowed enough to make the motion real. A clever plan in the specific way clever plans become stupid when they require voluntarily ingesting an unknown drug. I wanted to scream at her. Dinner ended within 10 minutes. Meredith suggested Mara wait in the smaller sitting room for Daniel, who supposedly wanted to talk. Tori immediately turned to her mother. Mom, I need to talk to you. Tomorrow. But, Tori. She stopped. Meredith led Mara down the hall. I'm getting sleepy, Mara said. Meredith pulled a throw blanket over the arm of the couch. You've had a difficult week. Maybe. Neither of them was talking about sleep anymore. Meredith left. Mara lay down and closed her eyes. Her breathing slowed. One arm slipped over the edge of the couch. Within 5 minutes, she looked like someone who would not know if the room caught fire. But the pallor in her face was not acting. The amount she swallowed had been enough to affect her. I sat beside the couch. Do you always choose the most dangerous version of a plan? No answer. Mara's real phone was not on her. Before dinner, she had hidden a small recorder in the lining of her purse and set it to upload audio automatically whenever it connected to cellular data. The phone Meredith could see was a decoy. If she smashed it, the important part would already be elsewhere. Nearly half an hour passed. Nothing. The quiet began to make even me doubt the setup. Maybe the soup had been a test. Maybe Meredith planned to wait until Mara was fully unconscious. Maybe what Mara had smelled was not a sedative at all. Leave, I whispered. One eyelid twitched. Footsteps crossed the hall. Mara went perfectly still. The door opened. Meredith entered alone. She did not turn on the light. Claire? No response. She tried again, walked closer, and pressed her hand to Mara's shoulder. Mara's body yielded loosely beneath the push. Meredith exhaled. Not pleased, not angry,
like someone checking that a lock had engaged. I gave you a chance. She sat in the chair opposite the couch. All you had to do was stay away from my family. Mara did not move. But you kept digging. Meredith picked up the decoy phone from the table. No passcode. The most recent folder contained a single file, willowstreet.pdf. Page 1, the old news report. Page 2, Caleb Rourke's business record. Page 3 contained a sentence Mara had invented completely. Former witness identifies the person who hired Caleb Rourke before the Willow Street fire. Meredith scrolled faster. The next page was locked. Full file has been sent to a third party. Her fingers tightened around the phone. Rourke's dead. I did not breathe anymore, yet I felt myself stop breathing. If she knew nothing about him, the first question should have been, who is Caleb Rourke? Instead, she knew he was dead. The phone buzzed. A message appeared at the time Mara had programmed. Vehicle reported near the Hale property the night of the fire has been identified. Meredith shot to her feet. Bullshit. She paced 2 steps, then looked back at the screen. The car wasn't in front of the house. Silence. It was on the service road behind it. She stopped. So did I. The newspaper had never published a location, only near the property. Meredith knew exactly what she had just corrected. She looked at Mara. For the first time that night, the face no longer belonged to a woman hosting a difficult teenager for dinner. I don't know who you are, she said to Mara. For the first time, Claire disappeared from her voice entirely. But you picked the wrong grave to dig up. Tori covered her mouth. I had seen her enjoy fear in other people. Fear did not look different on her. She stepped backward. The floorboard creaked. Meredith turned. Tori vanished from the gap in the hall. Cat, Meredith muttered, then looked back at Mara. Where's the full file? No answer. Meredith bent and suddenly drove her fingers into Mara's injured shoulder. Mara's body jerked. Cold flooded me. Meredith saw it. She leaned close. Claire? Mara did not open her eyes. Headlights swept across the window. Meredith straightened. Who the hell? She looked outside and froze. Daniel Hale had just stepped out of his car. Mara's eyelids opened by a sliver. Not relief, surprise. I understood. Mara wanted Daniel Hale to hear the evidence. Just not yet.
Chapter 11. 1 second. Meredith left the sitting room the moment Daniel entered the house. Mara stayed on the couch for several seconds longer. Then she pushed herself upright. Her knees softened when her feet touched the floor. I moved toward her by reflex and remembered again that I could not catch her. Her shoulder was nearly useless. The drug blurred her focus whenever she stood too fast. This was not the condition she had designed for the end of the plan. In the living room, Daniel said, "Meredith." He did not shout. The restraint made the word worse. Meredith stopped near the center of the room. "You're home early. Who is Caleb Rourke?" She did not answer immediately. "You drove home at night to ask me about a name? Answer me." "I don't know him." Daniel placed his phone on the table. A scanned bank record filled the screen. 3 weeks before the Willow Street fire, Rourke's company received money through an account tied to someone who worked for your family. Meredith folded her arms. "And?" "After the fire, Rourke disappeared. You want me to solve your conspiracy theory for you?" Daniel stared at her. "I want you to stop talking to me like I'm a stranger." His eyes landed on Mara's purse near the hallway. "Why is Claire here?" "Tori invited her for dinner." Daniel looked toward the stairs. "Tori?" No one answered. He started down the hall. Meredith stepped in front of him. "What are you doing? Move! When did that girl become more important than your wife and daughter?" Daniel stopped. You're afraid of her." Meredith gave a short laugh. "I am? Not because she met me." He moved closer. "Because she found Willow Street." The laugh disappeared. Behind me, Mara pulled herself to standing and waited for the dizziness to pass before moving. "My wife died in that house," Daniel said, his voice roughened. "My daughter was 7. Meredith said nothing. "For 11 years, I've asked myself why I didn't go home earlier. I funded burn units, churches, grief programs. I wrote checks to places I don't even remember because somebody told me maybe doing good would help the dead." He laughed once without humor. "You watched me do that." "Daniel, what did you know?" "I didn't kill them." The answer came too quickly. Both of them heard it. Daniel did not blink. "I never said they were killed." Meredith inhaled. "Listen to me. So it wasn't an accident?" "It isn't what you think." "What should I think?" Meredith looked toward the staircase. Tori stood there. "Tori, go upstairs." She did not move. "Tori, go upstairs." Daniel looked at Tori, then back at his wife. "Does she know?" "No." "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything." For the first time, Meredith's voice broke. "I only wanted Rebecca to leave you." Daniel stepped back. "Rebecca? Your wife?" The grandfather clock in the hall ticked suddenly loud. "I hired Rourke to scare her, to make her understand she should go. No one told him to burn the house." Daniel stared. "You hired him. Not to kill anyone. You hired him. I didn't know Anna would be home that night." Another truth fell out. Tori gripped the banister. Daniel picked up his phone. "I'm calling the police." "Daniel! From now on, explain it to them." Meredith grabbed his arm. "You can't." "Let go." He jerked free. Meredith stumbled into the side table. A heavy brass candlestick tipped and struck the floor with a dull clang. Meredith looked down. I knew before she bent. Mara. Mara had reached the hallway. "Meredith." Meredith seized the candlestick. Daniel had turned away to dial. "Dad!" Tori screamed. Daniel twisted. The candlestick caught his shoulder and glanced off the side of his head instead of striking the back of his skull. He collapsed. Blood appeared immediately at his temple. Tori ran down the stairs. Meredith stood frozen with the candlestick still in her hand. "Daniel!" He pushed weakly against the floor. His phone lay several feet away. Meredith looked at it. I watched the exact moment a person moved from having done one irreversible thing to deciding she had to do another in order to hide it. She raised the candlestick again. Tori stepped between them. "Stop! Move! Tori! Move!" Daniel lay behind his daughter with one hand pressed to his head. "Call 911." Meredith held out her free hand. "Come here." Daniel said very softly, "Tor." Tori looked at him, then her mother. 1 second. I knew how long a second could be. I had lain in an alley waiting for someone to change his mind, waiting for one person to decide they had gone far enough. Tori turned toward Meredith. "Mom, let's go." I closed my eyes. She had chosen. Not because she did not know right from wrong, because when right and wrong stood in front of her, she still reached first for the person who taught her consequences were things rich people escaped. Meredith pulled Tori aside. The space in front of Daniel opened. She lifted the candlestick. Mara hit her from behind. She did not have the strength to control Meredith the way she had controlled Warren. She used her whole body and drove both of them to the floor. They crashed hard. The candlestick rolled under the table, knocking against chair legs. Meredith shoved Mara away. Her head struck the couch frame with a blunt crack. Pain shot through me. Tori stood motionless. "What are you doing?" Meredith screamed. "At her! Tori, hold her!" Tori looked at Mara.
at Daniel, at her mother. A second choice. This time she did not move. Enough. Meredith whipped around. What did you say? Enough. Tori's voice broke. You always said it would be fine. You said if we had money, people would shut up. You said girls like her couldn't do anything to us. She pointed at Mara, hand shaking violently. I believed you. Meredith stared at her as if betrayal was the one crime she had never prepared for. You're blaming me now? I don't know. Tori pressed both hands to her head. I don't know any more. Another vehicle pulled into the drive. The doorbell rang. Mara, still on the floor, reached inside my dress and pulled out her real phone. The screen read, "Upload complete." Meredith saw it. Give me that. Mara did not move. Give it to me. Meredith tore the phone from her hand, threw it down, and stomped. Once, twice. Glass cracked sharply. The screen flowered into a black spider web. Mara looked at the pieces beneath Meredith's shoe. Too late. 2 words. Meredith stopped. The doorbell sounded again. Daniel had dragged his own phone close enough to keep the emergency call connected. Nothing in the room matched anyone's plan anymore. Mara had failed to control Daniel. Daniel had failed to control grief. Meredith had failed to control fear. Tori had failed to control her first choice. That was why the truth finally became real. Tori kneeled beside Daniel, both hands hovering because she did not know where it was safe to touch him. She looked up at Mara. Who the hell are you? Mara did not answer immediately. In the shattered phone screen, her reflection broke into pieces. One held Mara Mercer, another held me. It doesn't matter anymore, she said. Then she closed her eyes. For the first time, I was not sure whether she meant the answer for Tori or for herself.
Chapter 12. Giving My Name Back. 3 days later, Mara came home alone. Daniel was still in the hospital, but out of danger. Meredith had been arrested on the assault and was being investigated in connection with the Willow Street fire. Tori was cooperating in the case involving the men who attacked me. I did not know what sentence anyone would eventually receive. Strangely, I no longer needed to know right away. For days after my death, I had believed that if everyone paid the correct price, something inside me would become lighter. Lightness did not feel like victory. It felt like exhaustion. Mara had given the police her real name, Mara Mercer. Those 2 words made the tether between us tremble. After that, the memories leaking between us became rarer. Mirrors stopped holding expressions half a second too long. Something had begun withdrawing from the boundary we had blurred. The house remained mostly as we had left it. At night, the walls were so quiet I could hear old wood settling in tiny creaks. Mara went to my room and opened the closet. She removed my hair tie, my cardigan, my watch, finally my student ID. Claire Mercer. She held it for a long time. Without my hair and my clothes arranged around her, her face returned to her familiar coldness. I used to believe that expression meant there was nothing behind it. One of many things I had been wrong about. Mara looked at the card. I'm not you. The room changed. Barely. The mirror above my dresser fogged as if invisible breath moved across it. Mara looked up. Only she stood there. I was not behind her. No smile remained after hers faded. I don't want to be you anymore. The tether vibrated once. Then the pole changed direction. Not toward Mara. Downstairs, out the back door. Toward the magnolia tree. Mara carried my clothes and ID outside.
The place where she had buried me had been dug open after she finally told police where to find my body. Beneath the tree, the soil was darker where it had been filled again. My body was gone. The place still felt more like home than anywhere else. Mara sat down and folded my clothes beside the trunk. She laid my ID on top. The magnolia's late blossoms were sparse this time of year, but their sweet lemony scent still caught in the damp night air. Leaves rubbed together overhead with a dry whisper. For a long time, Mara only studied her hands. The knuckles were still scraped. "You said I could get better." I sat across from her. "I tried." Her voice remained level. That made the sentence sound almost awkward. "When we were 10, after the knife, I knew Mom and Dad wanted to send me away." Mara picked up a fallen leaf and snapped the stem between her fingers. "I did not understand why everyone was scared." She paused. "I only wanted to know what would happen if you died." I remembered that night, remembered lying awake until morning because I was afraid to turn my back on the bedroom door. "Then you told me to be good." Mara lowered her head. "I thought if I got better, you wouldn't leave." I wanted to answer immediately. That isn't what I meant. But living words sometimes arrive inside another person carrying a meaning the speaker never intended. It had taken my death to understand something that simple. "I didn't get there in time," Mara said. A small laugh came out crooked. "You left first." She covered her eyes. "I found them." Her shoulders began to shake. "I didn't kill Warren." I looked at her. "I didn't try not to kill the men in the warehouse." Her breathing broke apart. "I didn't want what happened at the Hales house either." Tears slid through her fingers. Mara wiped them away immediately, as though crying were another mess she could clean. "But I still did bad things." For the first time since I died, Mara cried with no one present to perform for. She was terrible at it, could not breathe evenly, could not stop, kept wiping until her skin around her eyes turned red. "Claire," I lifted my head. "I got better." Her voice broke completely. "I really did." She pressed one hand to the dark soil. "So can you come back now?" The wind stopped. Even the leaves went quiet. I looked at my sister and finally understood how the promise from age 10 had lived inside her. A contract. Be good and Claire stays. Be bad and Claire leaves. She had spent years trying to fix herself like a child finishing homework because an adult had promised a reward. "Idiot!" The sound came out of me. Actually out. Mara's head snapped up. I froze too. "Claire?" "Mara." Her eyes stopped exactly where I stood. They did not pass through, did not land on the tree behind me. She saw me. For one impossible moment, beneath the magnolia our parents planted for 2 babies born 7 minutes apart, we stood in front of each other as separate people. Mara Mercer. Claire Mercer. No one wearing the other's name. Mara reached toward me. Her fingers passed through my shoulder. She pulled back. I smiled. "Still can't touch me." She stared at her hand. Then asked, "Are you mad at me?" I wanted to say no. It would have been prettier. Easier. We had hidden enough from each other. "Yes." Her face locked. "I'm mad that you always think hurting someone is the fastest answer." She said nothing. "I'm mad that you get hurt and still won't ask anyone for help." Her hand closed. "And I'm mad that you decide everything for me and call it protecting me."
Mara lowered her eyes. "But I never stopped loving you." She looked up. "When I told you to get better, I wasn't giving you a price for me staying." "Then what were you doing?" I looked at the face that had resembled mine so perfectly for days and now was entirely hers. "I wanted you to have another choice." Mara stayed quiet. "You were never supposed to earn it." "Earn what?" "Me loving you." Tears moved down her face again. This time she did not wipe them. "Then why did you hide everything from me?" I knew what she meant. Tori, Warren, the bruises. "Because I was afraid." "Of me?" "Yes." The answer hurt her. I could see it. "I was afraid you'd do exactly what you just did." Mara lowered her down. "So you didn't trust me?" "No." I let the word remain between us. "And I was wrong too. I thought hiding everything was protecting you. All it did was make you learn the truth when I was already gone and couldn't answer for any of it." Wind stirred through the magnolia again. A few pale petals loosened and spiraled into the dark grass. My hands were fading. Mara noticed immediately. "No!" She stepped toward me. "Claire!" "Mara." "You promised." "I know." "You're doing it again." "No." "You're leaving." I lifted my hand and held it where her hair should have been under my palm. "You don't have to become me to keep me." Her mouth tightened. I remembered 5-year-old Mara tipping glass into my milk because she wanted to know what pain looked like from the outside. Back then, I believed that if I loved her long enough, I could turn her into somebody else. I had been wrong about that, too. Love does not repair a person like an object. Sometimes all it can do is make one choice worth struggling toward instead of another. Mara Mercer. I said her full name. "Yeah?" "When this is over, don't live for me." She swallowed. "Then what am I supposed to live for?" I laughed. "You'll have to figure that out for yourself." A sound escaped her through the tears that was almost a laugh. Awkward, crooked, nothing like mine. I liked it better than every smile she had practiced in my mirror. My body thinned into the night. "Claire." "Yeah?" "I miss you." "I know." Then I was gone. Mara stayed beneath the magnolia until the sky began to gray.
When she finally stood, she carried my clothes back inside, but left my student ID beside the roots. In the bathroom, she washed her face, took out the hair tie, and passed the mirror. One girl stood in it, not Claire Mercer. No reflection lagged behind, only Mara. She stopped and looked at herself for a while. Then she tried to smile. It was still awkward, still a little crooked. This time she did not correct it.